The restriction list came in hot with 5 new additions to the list. Interestingly, unlike the last one, no one came off. That being said, this video is going to go over not just the restrictions, but the substitutions you can utilize moving forward, and future predictions on value of the set. After all, with a hit to some of these cards coming in BT15, you can definitely expect the overall value of the set to drop. Remember, BT15 drops officially on February 16th, meaning you have roughly 2 weeks of fun with all of these decks. For competitive players and resellers who view this as a loss, as a collector, I see this as an absolute win. For the first card of discussion, Bandai has actually done what every player has predicted. Though initially improbable, Apocon has come to 1. Fun little trivia knowledge, you may have heard other content creators refer to this Digimon with pizza. Admittedly, this is just dialogue written exclusively for the English dub, which is why here in the West, we poke fun at it. Frankly, this card deserved to be hit to 1. The reasonings they give go as far as to how in a deck that can fill the trash quickly with multiple copies of Digimon with Dark Masters in its traits, this results in a fairly quick body that in combination with BT13 Craniumon is unaffected by Digimon effects. Not to mention its trashing effect hits hard against decks without any counterplay. Problem is, Apocon is a deck hinged on this card. There aren't any viable substitutions at this time, but who's to say that Bandai won't print a new version in the future to pick up the pieces where the first one left off? Maybe just leave it to Digimon with Dark Masters, Evil, Undead, and Angel in their traits, instead of generically a level 6. But if you're absolutely set on playing this deck, 3 cards come to mind that can help recycle this big bad Digimon: Arcturusmon, Junomon, and Lament of Friendship. In terms of value when it comes to playable secret rares, this was probably going to be up there at my estimation of maybe $40 a piece. A price on par with Rinashina Maya since you mandatory run 4 copies. Now at only 1 copy, you might have the issue of even finding it quickly, or it even be in security. If your Apocon does end up in security, where your deck's focused is pretty much gone. After restrictions, I estimate this card will have a price of about $10, before people realize that this card at 1 effectively makes the deck very difficult to play, and drop to a subpar secret value of about $3 to $5. Needless to say, as a collector of 4, this card is going to be much easier to pick up. The second hit for discussion is Anubismon. After playtesting this deck, this card is overtuned to all freaking hell. While true, purple does not have any kind of board protection, Bandai commented on the high board retention and control due to continuous play and removal effects, such as the likes of Mervamon and Leviamon. If you haven't checked out my Meta Monday profile yet, I detail a skeleton of what I'm playing and all the tools you can pressure with aggro and control the board by other means. Substitution-wise, again, there is no card that fulfills the role of playing from the trash like this Digimon. Admittedly, you'll likely play Mervamon the main face of the deck for a while and just adjust your lower ends to account for Anubismon in the case it's sent to the trash early, if you go the mill route, or it's hit in security. Again, value-wise as a regular art super rare, this card would have been like $6 to $8 being a mandatory 4 of in the deck. And it will likely stay that way throughout the early weeks of the release before Nationals due to everyone wanting to put the deck together. Post restrictions, I expect this card to drop to $1 to $2 if you're lucky, though the alt art will likely stay up to $30 to $40 initially. Still, as a playset collector, this will be easier to pick up post-March once restrictions go into effect, and everyone who blinged out the deck will be offloading their extra copies. Interestingly, I feel that in terms of game design, had this card been main when digivolving, if this is the only Digimon in play, by trashing 3 cards instead of just generically every turn, it might have had a chance to stay at 4 copies. Because once you've used its effect, you cannot use it again until it's the only Digimon in play. With Mervamon, you only ever sit on 4 bodies at most, and with Leviamon, you only ever have 2 Digimon in play. But that's enough of that. 3 cards to go. The next 2 cards for restrictions were, surprise surprise, part of the Garurumon engine. With Greymon being one of my favorite Digimon, if BT11 Greymon X got the limit, I knew with Garurumon X's overtuned effect, it'd also get the same restriction. Both cards provide ways to dump cards into the trash, especially for Garurumon decks to gain battle protection. Not to mention, these are the cards for battle protection. For substitutions, you'll have to go back to good old BT9 Gabumon X and Garurumon X, though with the announcement of the restrictions, there's already a buyout of Gabumon X. Granted, this card doesn't have any inheritables, but it does supplement your search engine. Because EX5 Gabumon X and Garurumon X did not have a higher rarity, it was already going to be nickels and dimes in value, so for the most part of this discussion, it doesn't really matter. Though the last and final card came in the form of Bukamon from BT14. Hilariously, the reasoning for this felt like no one will ever use our new blue Digi-Eggs, so we're putting it to 1. I do agree that it is very easy to fulfill the jamming conditions, but I think the better reasoning is likely Mirage Galgamon decks have an easy way fulfilling the effect. Bounce this, bounce that, oh look! I have jamming! And I unsuspend a billion times. Is it strong in some jank blue decks? Yes. Is it stronger in meta decks? Absolutely yes. But for substitutions, everyone will likely be going back to BT11 Wanyamon. While this egg does not give any special effects, generic card draw is always good. And that's it! A lot of these restrictions were expected. I felt Bukamon might come later, but I guess March will be later now. In regards to other cards on the restriction list, I kind of see both reasonings for the Eismon Scatter Mode and BT2 Gabumon coming off or staying on. While admittedly the Eismon engine was problematic with Apocon roaming around, I do see the logic in that it does limit future game design. But at the same time, with nothing game breaking right now, could you let it free? Maybe? To be fair, Gizmon is the new engine everyone is using, and in some ways, floats a body as well. Overall, a lot of players knew what decks were in store for this list, and it came to a matter of what was going to be hit, and why. But remember, this list does not go into effect until March, so play what you want now, and enjoy what you can. And on the flip side, at least you didn't buy 4 copies of an alt art for a deck, and then watch it get sunk right? What were your thoughts on the restriction list? Let me know, and I'll catch you tomorrow on my next What If episode. This is DIGI-PANDA, logging out.